Good morning, Creighton University students and community. I'm very sorry to not be able to be with you this morning. I'm using my Windows phone to record a message to you to let you know that the only reason I'm not with you is because it's not physically possible for me to get there. Today's our first day open. We had Monday, as you well know, Monday and Tuesday off as a result of the storm, the cyclone that hit the East Coast, which has left a tremendous amount of devastation. Two successive days off was the first time in over 100 years that markets were closed as a result of weather conditions. So to put that in perspective, things have been crippled, to put it mildly, here on the East Coast. Markets are open. I am here. Getting out of Newark Airport at my scheduled time would not be possible. In fact, my flight has been canceled. So I'm sitting here in Jersey City wishing I was there in Omaha, Nebraska with you fine people, wishing that I had the opportunity to talk to you about the ideas and themes that I've had prepared to talk to you about. Unfortunately, things here are very compromised. In fact, so compromised, in fact, that I'm sending you this message on my Windows phone as opposed to even using facilities or my broadcast facility, which I normally do when I appear on any number of networks and for interviews on radio and print, things of that nature. So our broadcast facility, which I would normally record this on, is not even operational. We're operating on generator power, much like the New York Stock Exchange and other major marketplaces are. So conservation of energy and a very, very slimmed down staff are the order of the day. But I'm sending this message at the request of Jeremy and Christopher. And again, I just wanted to express my apologies actually for not being able to be there. I've prepared a text that speaks to the urgency and the value of virtue, particularly in markets that seem to place such a predominance in motivation and such a high value on monetization of inefficiencies and reaching for opportunity in financial instruments and financial sectors, and oftentimes what seems to be at the peril of what's ultimately most important, which is the human condition. It seems a bit paradoxical to say that the human condition takes precedence over markets and the opportunity to monetize inefficiencies and build wealth, but in my 30 years on the street, the one theme that seems to have been the overarching, most universal and sustainable theme is the theme that speaks to compassion, consideration, thinking of others first, putting others first, living a life of service, and really delivering on that on a daily basis. And quite frankly, institutions of which I cover some of the largest in the United States, if not the world, all seem to really appreciate the fact that there is a human connection, that there's a human value system in place when it comes to implementing strategies, that there is coordination, that there is a sense of teamwork, and that at the end of the day, there's a human set of eyes watching over some of the world's most powerful trading technology. We have that here at night. We take great pride in that. We take great pride in the fact that our technology, coupled with the strength of the human relationships that we try to constantly work on and improve on, that hybrid, that combination of care and custodial effort makes all the difference in the world. It's not just about money at the end of the day. It's about building sustainable relationships, building customizable solutions that take into account the human engagement, that take into account the technology, our ability to leverage the technology, speed to market, smart technology. But at the end of the day, again, it's about really putting the client first, even if that means, and oftentimes it does in my case, not monetizing the relationship, but providing something that I think at the end of the day is more important: consideration, care, consistency, valuing the human experience on the other end of that phone, on the other end of that connection. That is something that I'm hopeful resonates. Think long-term, think sustainable, think human relations, think about what it means to build a good feeling, not just for performance in technology, but performance from a human level. You're getting some of the best education that you can get in the United States at Creighton University. It's world-renowned, in fact. And I know that the human component is or should be a big part of it. I suspect you're getting that. I just want to emphasize that at the end of the day, with everything that we have been through here at night, and we've been through a great deal, well documented, we have been able to resurrect and rise from the ashes on a multitude of occasions, most recently at the end of this past summer, as a result of one thing. That one thing is the human relationship, compassion, respect, trust. We've been given the ability to perform again at our best and highest level as a result of the trust that's been given to us by the institutional community. Virtually all of our customers are back up and running. We have not only regained market share in every major market segment, we've actually gained market share. And it speaks to trust. It speaks to not just technology, but the human component of that equation. Keep that in mind. I wish I was there with you. I look forward to attending at some other time. My sincere apologies, and I'm humbled by the opportunity to have addressed you. I only wish I'd been able to. Have a wonderful time. Enjoy your keynote. Enjoy the day. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
At this time, we'd like to invite Dr. Anthony Hendrickson, Dean of the Creighton University College of Business, to the stage for his opening remarks and to introduce Ms. Jennie Hanson, Executive Vice President at West Corporation.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Last night we officially kicked off the Ignite the Greatness campaign. So if you see these buttons, that's what this is all about. It's the Ignite the Greatness campaign for the College of Business. Right now is very exciting times for the College of Business. As you know, we're going to be moving from our home in Epley to the Harper Center. Epley's been our home since 1961, and I think that this move is symbolic of the rise in stature and reputation associated with the business degree here at Creighton, and the facility will allow us to expand on what we're doing. The campaign itself will do a couple of things. It will allow us to increase our enrollments, and it will pay for the capital renovations to the Harper Center as well as 7 other buildings on campus. The renovations to the Harper Center will include new faculty spaces, an investment analysis center, a new lobby, renovated classrooms, and some other opportunities, perhaps a student-run retail organization in the facility as well. Most importantly, by not choosing to build a new facility, this campaign is going to allow us to focus on our most important assets, and that's students, faculty, and programs. So we've already done an exceptional job, but we can do better. We can raise our national profile even higher. Some of the things that you may have read recently in the last several months, we've been ranked by U.S. News and World Report. Our graduate program in finance is ranked 19th. It is tied with Yale School of Management. Our graduate program in information technology was ranked 16th by U.S. News and World Report. The undergraduate program in finance was ranked 15th. And just yesterday, the Best Schools organization ranked our online master's program in information technology number 3 in the country. So we're very proud of that. Our great faculty help produce great students, and a great example of our students and their accomplishments is really this business symposium. This is the largest student-run event in the nation. So give yourself a hand on that. Our students come from far and wide. If you happen to read the editorial in the newspaper this morning, if you haven't had a chance to read the World Herald, you might want to take that opportunity. There's a front page of the Midland sections is a story about our Ignite the Greatness campaign, and there's also an editorial by our campaign chairs, Mark Huber and Scott Hyder, pointing out the benefits of a Creighton education to our local community. So take advantage of that. One of the things that they point out is that roughly 80% of our business undergrads come from more than 400 miles away. And yet, 50% or so of the class begin their careers here in the city of Omaha. And so that's significant brain gain for our local community, and we're extremely proud of that. There are numerous examples of that brain gain that we see, and many are sitting right here in this room. In fact, I met someone earlier today that's a graduate that is from Chicago and works now at ConAgra, and I think that's fairly typical of what we see in our business school. The other portion that I would mention to you is that when we announced our campaign last night, I'm pleased to let you know, in case you hadn't heard, that we have already raised, as we begin this campaign, this is just the kickoff, but we have already raised $47.1 million to support the College of Business. Again, the advantage of what we're doing will be that most of the funds that we'll be able to raise will be able to support students and faculty and programs. One of the people that has been key in that kind of support over the years, way before we kicked off the campaign, a person that's really responsible for what we see here in terms of the Executive Business Symposium and our Waite Leadership Center is Mr. Don Waite. Don, would you please stand to be recognized? Don has been a passionate supporter of our leadership program, of our student experience here at Creighton, and it's that kind of donors and philanthropy that make a difference for our college. Well, we realize that Mr. Kinney is not able to join us today, but we're fortunate. We have an incredible keynote speaker, and it's my opportunity to introduce her. Ms. Jennie Hanson is the Executive Vice President of West Corporation. She's in charge of Alerts and Notifications business, a high-growth business unit in the West Corporation, providing proactive communication solutions for engaging clients and customers. Jennie is responsible for all strategy and associated businesses within the Alerts and Notifications division. She brings over 2 decades of leadership experience to all aspects of business, including product development, marketing, sales management, client service, finance, technology, innovation, and delivery. From 2007 to 2008, she was the Senior Vice President at West Interactive, a business unit of West providing contact center transformation solutions, and she was responsible for short and long-term growth strategies and business development. Prior to joining West, Jennie was an executive for GE for 21 years, most recently as president of GE Healthcare Lunar, a division of GE Healthcare and a global market leader in bone disease diagnosis equipment. Lunar has global operations in Asia, Europe, North and South America. Jennie was responsible for over 1,000 people worldwide in this multi-hundred-million-dollar business. In her role, Jennie lectured globally for groups such as CNBC on topics of leadership, growing businesses, and disease management. Prior to their position, Jennie spent 13 years with GE Healthcare in various key leadership positions throughout the organization. Jennie holds a bachelor's degree in applied mathematics and economics from Brown University, and she lives here in Omaha, Nebraska with her family. And please join me in welcoming our morning keynote, Jennie Hanson.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here, obviously under a sad situation for Peter. My parents live in New Jersey, so perhaps all of you have some acquaintances there, so you know the situation that they're under, and we can certainly understand him not being here. But I want to thank Creighton for the opportunity to be here. I'm pleased to be able to speak with you. You look really good. I'm so impressed you got dressed up this morning, but then I heard there was a memo. So hopefully you can loosen your tie and grab some coffee and we can spend a little bit of time together here. I wanted to spend the next 30 minutes talking about some of the things that I've learned along the way in my career. As was introduced, I'm Jennie Hanson. I'm the Executive Vice President of West Corporation. We're a $2.5 billion communications company headquartered actually here in Omaha. So have you ever ordered a movie sitting in your dorm room, via text? Or have you ever watched anyone, get a doctor's appointment reminder, or potentially been on a conference call? Have you ever chatted through IM with your friends? Have you ever had to watch your parents maybe when you were younger, call a utility because your power was out? Have you ever had that experience, not having any power? We know a lot of people in New Jersey who have that situation right now. Or maybe credit cards. Had you ever talked to your credit card company or received a communication from them? If you've ever had to do any of these types of things, chances are you were working with West. We're a quiet company that works behind the scenes for many global logos that you would know. Like I said, we're the leading provider, like was mentioned, we're a leading provider of technology-driven solutions that really help people and customers communicate. And we're doing things like we lead the world's largest conferencing company. We're also the infrastructure for 911. So we have a pretty significant global presence. So as we start today, what I thought I would do is say that we really touch the lives for many of you in ways that perhaps you don't understand. But along the way, I wanted to share with you some of the lessons that I've learned in leadership and maybe see if they resonate with the things that you're learning in your school today. Stunning as it might be, I've been in the career world for 26 years. I know you're all surprised by that. Please laugh with me, right? But not too much, all right? 21 years with GE and 5 years with West. And along the way, I've developed really two frameworks that I use that have guided me in the principles of growing businesses. My specialty is leading high growth businesses, either growing them or taking them to higher levels. I started my career straight out of Brown into GE. And I joined GE for two reasons. One is I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do coming out of college, and I knew they had lots of divisions. And I also joined a program with them called the Financial Management Program, which allowed me to do some studies. And I knew I was pretty good at that, right? I just finished college. So I joined them, and along the way had a pretty successful career. My advice is find something you love and stick with it. But it's not going to be easy. You'll be successful, but it's a lot of hard work. Really what I did was I found my career having two fundamental moves along the way. One is called a vertical move, which I would characterize as saying, hey, I was doing the same thing, I learned to do something, and then I promoted up to do it on a wider scale. So think of that as, moving from the Midwest geography to the United States, or the United States to a global geography. But the other kind of move that my career took, which was interesting and significant, was horizontal moves, where I took promotions that were really about gaining additional skills. So I ran a service organization, and then for the same geographic area, I ran a sales organization with it. And then I ran manufacturing, and then I ran technology. So I was able to gain skills and an alternating capability of going up and over, vertical and horizontal, through my career. In the end, through the years, I moved up with GE, and I ended up as an executive of the GE Healthcare division. I was one of the top 5 women in what was then 42,000 people within GE Healthcare. My last position was president of a division that had global responsibility. I had 1,000 people. I have lots of fun stories about our global responsibilities. I could tell you about having to negotiate in bathrobes in Norway and eating fun food in China. But the reality is I thought I'd share with you these two frameworks of the things that I thought helped facilitate success, and the leaders that I know have facilitated success for them. But a few quick things as I think about it. First, you guys are getting a head start because finance is the language of business. Everything you do will be about two things: people and finance. Yes, they're customers, and we'll talk about those, but it is absolutely about understanding how to look at things financially. In your career, you'll have to decide between the idea of diversity of skills or depth of skills. Either one's fine. Just be cognizant of the choice that you make. And lastly, that which makes you great will be the thing that you also have to watch in your career. Meaning, if you're a detailed person, as you rise up in your success and career, span will be hard. If you're strategic and high level, knowing the details will be a challenge. You'll certainly be able to do that. It's just one of those things you keep in the back of your mind to make sure you're aware of. And some of the behaviors that I exhibited and I've seen in successful leaders, really, it's all about execution. At the end of the day, execute. Execute, execute, execute. Be self-directed. We all know those people who need extra attention. Be the person who can figure it out and do things on your own. Be a problem solver. Do things with speed and urgency. Have presence. You ever walked into a room and seen somebody and said, hey, I want to get to know them? Be that person. Work with your teammates, play well in groups, and frankly, just work hard. Wonder why I left GE? I left GE because I was working really hard, and I'd figured after 7 years of global travel, I really wanted to go home and see my kids, who at the time were 12 and 7. And I had a limited window to be with them before I sent them off to college. My son is a senior now, and so I'm a mom looking at making the decisions that all of you have made to go on to college, and it was time to go home. So I moved to Omaha and took a position with West. But let's talk about some of the frameworks that I've learned and see if they resonate with you. The first framework is a business equation that I really developed many years ago, and it goes like this. Businesses need to grow. And in order to grow, you have to develop and introduce market-relevant solutions. You have to develop those and deliver those with quality and competency to your customers. Then you have to make sure your customers are happy, and you do all of it with the foundational and fundamental principle of empowered employees. So for the sake of today, let's step through each of those. It first starts with growth. Some of this might sound very easy and simplistic when you sit in an audience, but the reality of leading towards that isn't so easy. You first got to focus on growth. Creating demand and selling something to customers isn't so easy, but there are 5 fundamental levers that help you get there, and any business or consulting firm will tell you the same thing. Really, it's about, first of all, existing customers. Can you sell to them? Can you create what they call share of wallet? If a customer has $1, how much are they going to spend with you? And how do you create that where they're going to spend as much money with you as you want them to? The second lever of growth is called new clients. How do you get new clients to buy what it is that you're going to sell? The third lever is new solutions, software, products, services, whatever it is that you're selling and your company has. How do you continue to innovate? The fourth lever is adjacent markets. If I'm doing it in one market, maybe financial, can I take it over to another market called retail? How do you do that, and how do you do that effectively? And then the final lever is acquisitions. Those are the 5 ones that are really, as you think about your careers and you move into positions in leadership throughout your life, think about those levers as the ways to create growth. And fundamentally, every one of your businesses will be about that, as how do they grow? How do you anticipate market moves? How should your business respond? Where will be the next market? How do you figure out what that market wants? An example, in my last position at GE, we focused on diagnosis of bone disease. We knew that bone density was a great predictor of the chances of obesity. We saw the onslaught of obesity, which we know now is a national epidemic, and studying that would be critical for us. So we set about understanding our global markets. What did that mean in Japan? What did that mean in the US? How would we potentially grow? What were the government regulations? What were the laws? And how would we determine what our customers wanted? Really fun strategic questions, but not easy to answer. And when you get them right and you look at the 5 levers, your business will be able to grow. I worked under Jack Welch and I worked under Jeff Ellmont. And Jeff Ellmont was famous for saying 5 must-dos with growth. The first one was make it a process. Don't overdo it. Process can be a scary word. But figure out a process as you enter your career and be consistent with that and have that translate into success, particularly relative to growth. Increase accountability and growth will come. Be accountable for the things that you commit to in your career and be very commercially oriented. Never lose sight of the market that you're in. Set clear priorities and innovate. This is one of the biggest ones. If I had a nickel for every time somebody came to me in my career and said, I have the greatest idea, I need some money, I'd have retired long ago. Please, please learn to self-fund. What do I mean by that? Create the money that you need for your own solutions. If you have an idea and you believe in it strong enough, figure out the money. That's not easy. But if you're leading a business of $1,000 or $100 million or $1 billion, you should be able to find money. I just had a leader come to me the other day and say, I've got a great idea. I said, terrific. Your part of the business is $45 million. We're going to spend tens of millions of dollars in this business. He said, but I need $100,000. I said, really? You need $100,000 and you can't find it in that tens of millions of dollars? So make those investments and figure out how to self-fund your great ideas, because there's so many great ideas worth that funding. And we have to think about funding because we have to, as leaders, figure out how to fund today what our customers want tomorrow. You all have great ideas. You know that they're going to work. You need to think about how you create them today so you can sell them tomorrow. Ensure that you take care of your customers as you go through your career, and create initiatives around the growth. And get everyone involved was Jeff Emmelt's last point, and he's spot on. Growth is about everyone. You don't have to be in sales to be the only person growing your company. Engineers, support people, business leaders, HR, finance people should all be about growth. So make sure as you enter companies that you have ones that you're joining companies and you're leading companies that are all about having people involved. One of the key questions that growth companies have to look at is what kind of growth company are they? You can be a technology-driven company where technology drives what you do. You could be a sales company where salespeople have the say, and that's exactly what happens. Or perhaps you're a product-driven company where you're making products. Any way is the way to go. Just make sure that you understand the ramifications of that. But regardless of what that is, really it's going to come down to selling something, which gets to introducing market-relevant solutions. If you have 10 ideas, where do you put your money? That's not an easy decision. But an example would be, for instance, when we talked about creating a predictor for obesity, we went around the world and we came up with two solutions back from our customers. One was based more on a US market, which had heavier people and needed a bigger piece of equipment, and where technology called X-ray would be the key thing. So we built a product for that. But we knew that would not be the right solution in Asia, where space is limited. X-ray is not a choice of technology, ultrasound is, and you needed something that was much smaller because people were not going to lay down in any kind of diagnosis capability. They just wanted something to put their foot into. Very different requirements, the same end game, but you got to know your markets. A more relevant solution to our life today is really thinking about the user experience with our smartphones. If you talk about the way that you do gaming or the way that you order things, the push notifications that you get, our company is very big in push and mobile and capabilities like that. We have to go out and study users just like yourself to understand how it is that you are going to respond to the products that we develop. Once you figure that out, you actually need to develop solutions. And that really comes about with quality, delivery, and service. You have to get this one right. We provide communications for utility companies that are trying to reach their consumers. And as you can imagine, when Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Sandy came through, we had a lot of people with power out who wanted to let their utilities know. And so we delivered last year when Hurricane Irene came up the East Coast, we delivered like 24 million communications between consumers and utility companies in a matter of like 3 or 4 days. And we literally had a utility company call us back to talk to us about the hundreds of calls that we'd missed. That's 0.00004% defect. That's five zeros. Customers notice, do it right. But innovation is a really critical thing, and that's kind of the fun thing. So once you have a product and you're developing it on time, make sure that you continue to do that. Continue to innovate, continue to do quality, because your competitors will. And you don't want them to get ahead of you. So as you think about innovation, our technology teams all the time are thinking about the things that they could build for customers, They could build for the products that they have. They could build for platforms and functionality. They could build for any number of things. And how we spend that time in our business is a critical question leaders will have to decide. So as you think about the business courses that you're learning and you rise in your career, these are the types of decisions that you'll be making and help guide with your CTOs. The kinds of decisions where hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake, hundreds of people's careers are at stake. You want to make sure you're getting the right product for the right market and you're delivering it with quality. The next framework for success is really to engage your customers. And so you'd say, hey, Jenny, it's been a few minutes and you haven't even mentioned the word customer. Well, that's because if you understand your markets, you're going to understand what your customers want. And this message is really about delivering effectively to your customers. Peter said it. He said it's all about, you can count money all day long, but it's the human component that matters. Take care of your customers. We're getting to employees, but take care of your customers. How do you follow your most important customer? If they want something you don't quite do, should you do it? Maybe it's a new slant on a product, or should you productize more and do something for everybody? These are really tough questions to answer, but it is extraordinarily important that you know who you market to and you know what they want, because they're the ones buying. You can have the best idea in the world, but if nobody's going to buy it, it's not going to make you a successful business person. You might love it, but you need to understand what your customers want, and you need to take care of them. So understand what we call this river of information. Know what your customers are doing. Be better knowledgeable in your customer's business than they are of themselves. Be a consultant. Have reviews with them. Talk with them. Learn. Listen. This is incredibly important. And then ultimately, make sure you ask them. There's a thing called a Net Promoter Score. You might have heard of it. It's been around for quite some time. It came out of Harvard. And it's really asking your customers, in the end, would you recommend us to your friend or family or colleague? And what's the best advice? If somebody comes to you and said, hey, here's my friend, they're really great. You're like, hey, welcome to the family, come on in. The same thing applies in business. So make sure you understand and you're asking your customers, would you do business with us? And if they're saying yes, keep going. If they're saying no, or they're not saying anything, make sure you understand that. The last part, and so as we think about customers before we get to the last part, it's really about this idea of trust, competency, and discipline. And Peter said it really well. This idea of trust, of knowing what you're doing, of delivering between you and your customer is extraordinary. So if you remember a few things out of today's discussion, please remember this. Say you're going to do something, do it, and deliver with excellence. The last element of the framework, of this first framework, is about employees. If every one of my employees had one crisis a year, I'd have multiple crises a day. But that's part of leadership. And if you're going to be a leader, you need to love to take care of people. This is the most fundamental thing. You have to like people, and you have to be about making them successful. My job is to take care of people. It's to hire, first to attract, then to hire, retain, and promote all of you. That's what my job is. Take care of people. It's the greatest gift we can bestow on each other, is to be a really good example of what we do in work. It's not just about the leaders that you hire. It's just not about you specifically, but it's about, think about the culture of the company you join, that they take care of people, and you want to be part of that. Appreciate the people you work with, foster that kind of environment of appreciation, and empower the people you have. I always talk about this idea of buoy markers, which are lanes, Here's the goals, here's the strategy, and then I empower my leaders to go off. And if they work between these wide goals, they're going to be really successful and we're going to be fine. And I don't need to be in their business. That's what they're really good at. So here's the secret, right? This is it. Most people want to talk about business as, hey, let's talk about the financials, run your business, your customers. But I look at, did I do something? There we go. But I look at it the other way around. Take care of your employees, who will take care of your customers. And if you deliver with excellence on the products that you know that they want, the growth will come and the financials will be there. That's the secret. Do it in reverse, and you'll be very successful. So you say, well, what is it that actually translates into successful leadership? Here's my second framework, 5 skills. So my job, like I said, is to hire the best people, attract them, hire them, retain them, promote them, and help them be successful. And I hire people whose decision-making I trust. Peter said that word, I'll say it again, trust. You want to work with people that you trust. If you're in a group in school and you're doing a group project, you're absolutely having that little conversation in your head about how much you can trust those that you're working with, right? They got to deliver. Your grade depends on them delivering their part of the project. It's the same thing in work. I have to trust that my manager, who's leading some sales organization, who I see, maybe twice a month because he's on the road, is going to make the right decisions when I'm not in the room. So here are the 5 traits that I look at. First, creating an external focus. What defines success in market terms? Think about that. How is this person going to make decisions? Do they understand their markets? Do they understand a customer-back thinking process? And if they do, if they can anticipate the next 3 questions that customer is going to ask, and they think about things like that, that's a really good trait, because we know we'll never be too far from our customers and we'll be spot on in the market. B, to have that external antenna. Do the people that I speak with have an external focus? Do they understand businesses from 3 capacities? First, from the capacity of breadth, knowing what the business is that the customers are in. From depth, understanding the customer and the markets more than the next person. And do they have context for understanding why things happen in the market so they can anticipate the next thing that's going to go on? That's a key part. And be prepared every time you get in front of your customers. The second one is to think clearly and always have an opinion. Simplify your strategies and know what it is you're going to do. Listen, because you'll learn something, but you play a role. So have an opinion with something. If you don't have an opinion, then I'm not sure what you're doing in the conversation, right? And I'm sure all of you have opinions, you all participate, that's critical. Make smart decisions and simplify all the time. The people who can separate the noise from the critical few things are the most valuable people that you'll find to partner with in any capacity. Have you ever listened to a story a friend was telling you and you just kept waiting, and I see a lot of heads nodding, and okay, so the point was what? So as you rise in your career and time becomes more precious, that ability to cut through to the critical thing and start with the end in mind is extraordinarily valuable. And you want to solve your boss's problems and you want to solve the problems that they have given you, do that by figuring out the critical things that need to get done and thinking clearly, anticipating repercussions, and being able to focus. I jokingly say I can't remember more than 3 things. Well, clearly, we can all remember more than 3 things, but it's a forcing function for saying, what are your top 3 priorities? And when we're done those, we're going to go on to the next 3 priorities. But let's not get lost in 10 top priorities, and we do all of them kind of well, but we never really do any of them very well. So think about the ability remember the ability to think clearly and have an opinion. The last part, or the third part, is the imagination and courage. Have imagination in what you do and the courage to stand behind it. Think boldly, take risks, smart risks, and realize that with risks come learning. It's okay to make mistakes. It's really okay. What's not okay is to make repeated mistakes. So make those mistakes, learn, take personal responsibility. CEOs are about the company, not about their personal goals. So they're all about trying to figure out how to make bold moves in the markets that they're in. So pick bold moves, pick the idea that you would have, and have a bias for action. The fourth part of this framework is to energize teams through inclusiveness. And you heard Peter talk about it. There's an individual who is going through an unbelievably tough situation. And his entire message was about people, inclusiveness, how we trust, and he's spot on. Pick something of personal interest in your career, be involved, be successful. Find a positive attitude in what you do. Our group, my division, talks about working hard and playing hard. We have fun, we laugh, we stay calm when things are difficult. But it comes down to, and I wrote these 4 things down before I even heard Peter, the idea first of trust, to believe in people, trust yourself and your leadership and those around you. The second one is commitment. Be committed through tough decisions. Make the tough decisions. Make the tough decisions. Sometimes that means letting people go. Sometimes that means laying them off or firing them. I've had to do that in my career, and each of you will too. But do it with fairness and equity, and make sure you take care of the people that stay behind. Have passion about what you do. Be extraordinarily vivacious about what it is you're doing. And lastly, play in a team and play well. You heard me say that before. And see people differently. The way you lead an engineering or CTO is very different than the way you lead a sales leader or the way you lead someone from HR or finance. They speak different languages. They understand things differently. They have different skills. And your team is best when it's a collaboration of everybody. But you have to be able as a leader to successfully motivate each individual person. And that means adaptability by your style to the people that you're leading. The last part is to develop expertise in a function or domain. And this is an interesting one as a general leader, because you really want to be able to have, this idea of depth versus breadth, right? So my expertise is in leading businesses, more in strategy and in breadth. But that means that I have to hire and compensate for depth by hiring people who are domain leaders in what they do. My CTO is extraordinarily knowledgeable in everything technology, as well he should be, right? So you have to be able to understand the differences and hire people around you that can fill in where you need them to be and be experts at what they are. But make sure as a leader that you substantially know the business that you're in so that you can set visions and implement and set priorities and imperatives effectively. Always leave a few things unsaid to allow your team to have the flexibility and to be empowered and to be creative in what they do. Always listen as a leader, and I look for people who will listen. It's really interesting when people come in and I interview them and I always say, well, what questions do you have for me? And some of them actually say none. And I thought, really? You're looking at a job at a pretty high in a company and you don't have any questions? Never be that person. I'm sure you're not. But always listen and have an opinion and ask questions so that you can understand and contribute. And I always look for people who understand what they're doing from the perspective of the person that they're talking to. When I say, hey, tell me about yourself and why you're here, it's amazing what people will say when they start talking about themselves and they answer the entire question about themselves. I always want to know that folks have a perspective of what's important. As you're going to be a hiring leader someday, you're going to want to hear people tell you what they can do for you. So be that person. Be that person who understands the context of the environment that you're in and can answer the questions appropriately to the person that you're speaking to be successful. And when you have that connection, the passion will come and you'll be able to be very successful at what you do. So how people think in the end, those leadership traits are things that I look for that I've always found to be very successful and the characteristics that I look for in leaders. Smart and clearly acting with integrity. Will these people ultimately, and will the people that you hire in your career, and will you ultimately be a person that when your boss is out of the room, you make the right decisions, or when your team is out of the room and doing something that they're making decisions that you can trust in? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you're building a fantastic team. So with our time running out, what I will just leave you with is this. At the end of the day, you want to create winning teams. It is absolutely all about people. It's about employees and it's about customers. And hopefully this framework of business is something that you can take, and the framework of leadership traits is something that you can take in your career and use as as you rise in success. In the end, what matters is your team, your customers, and your investors. These frameworks have been successful for me. I hope they are successful for you. That's exactly what I wish is success in your career as you begin. Thank you for your time today.